Good afternoon. The City Commission is going to have a special session today, September 20th, 2021, in regards to consideration of the reapplication of liquor license held by the International African Restaurant and Nightclub pursuant to City Commission findings, conclusion, and order suspending said license in accordance with Fargo Municipal Code 251513. The Liquor Control met and had a recommendation. I'll start with Commissioner Pepcorn since he chairs that, and then I think we're going to have Steve Sprague and Chris Elmick speak, and then we're going to have the African International Attorney speak as well.
Just a short summary, Mr. Chair. So we met, and it was a good meeting. Both sides had lots of good questions and good comments. Basically, then it was 4-1 that the Liquor Control Board recommended that they get a 30-day continuation to reform their application. And Steve, you can correct me on that as far as the exact wording, but basically that was the intention, to give them a 30-day extension. Does that make sense? And so basically that's where it was. It was a 4-1 vote. I was the one that voted against it, but that was basically what the outcome of the Liquor Control Board. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I'll back up just a minute. Can I have roll call, please, Shelley, just so we note that all of us are here?
Gary.
Here.
Pepcorn.
Here.
Preston. Here. Strand.
Here.
Mahoney.
Yeah. Steve Sprague, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. As the Mayor stated, this is a hearing on the reapplication of the African International Restaurant and Nightclub as ordered by the City Commission on July 27th. The Liquor Control Board did meet for over an hour on Wednesday, September 15th, and heard testimony regarding the application for the African International Restaurant and Nightclub. First, before the Liquor Control made a motion to do the suspension that Commissioner Pepcorn was referencing, they first made a motion to revoke the license, and that vote was 2 in favor and 3 against revocation. Then next, the Liquor Control Board, after some more discussion, made a motion to continue the suspension of the license for another 30 days. And I guess this is the part that, I think that my understanding was to allow the restaurant time to get some management in place to help Mrs. Brown learn how to run a nightclub and bar. And that vote was 4-1 in favor. So the presentation that we made at that time, I think probably got a little confusing and maybe a little bit too detailed. And so at this point, what I really want to do is just focus on the 2 applications that I feel are pertinent here. The 2019 application that was approved lists Corey Schultz and Blue Brown as the owners and Blue Brown as the manager. It's important to note that the original application that we received had Francis Brown as owner and manager along with Corey Schultz. Francis Brown didn't qualify to receive the license. And so in your packet, there is a document that says, at a meeting of the members of the International African Restaurant and Nightclub on June 25th of 2019, by unanimous consent of all members, it is agreed that Francis Brown's ownership and interest will be transferred to his wife, and that she is considered a member in the LLC in good standing. It is further agreed that effective this date, Francis Brown will be removed as manager of the nightclub, and Blue Brown will be appointed as the new manager of the LLC. I've also included in your packet the recommendation from the Liquor Control Board in 2019 that was a recommendation to deny the transfer of the license. And I think it's important to note on that, I guess the third thing that's included is the approved application, or that the City Commission approved at that time. And it does have Chief Todd's recommendation of denial due to the felony convictions for both applicants. So in the next item that you have then is the application number 4 that we received and in this process of the reapplication process. So we got to number 4 we received an original application The chief and I reviewed it at a high level and noted a number of discrepancies or things that needed to be addressed. Sent it back. They submitted another application. That application was the one that the background check was done on. Subsequent to the findings of the police chief, they submitted a third application and then hired attorneys who completed a fourth application. And so the fourth application, and the one that we've been asked by the representatives to consider, lists Corey Schultz and Baloo Brown as the owners and Baloo Brown as the manager. So really, nothing has changed between 2019 application and the 2021 application that we are asked to consider. They're the same owners and the same management. So some of the discussion at Liquor Control was that, maybe we should give them a chance to see what they can do, that they're an asset to the community, et cetera. Well, really, that's what the last 2 years have been, that chance to show that you cannot operate a business the way it should be operated. Some say give them time to put together a management team. Well, that's what July, August, and September have been, time to put together a management team. In fact, the application that they submitted that we did the background check on had a management team in it that didn't pass the background check. So they removed those people from the application and submit a fourth application for you to consider. One of the factors that we're looking at today includes that the possibility that there may be some false statements in there. False statements do not need to be immediately recognized. They can be discovered later. And so it seems to me that the 2019 documents that listed Francis Brown, or that said that Francis Brown would not have anything to do with the business, is a false statement. And I have their application for renewal dated May 4th of 2021, where Francis Brown is listed as the manager. The other aspect that we look at when we're issuing a liquor license is the character, fitness, and reputation. And I'm going to ask Captain Chris Helmick to come up and explain the character, fitness, and reputation that Mr. Schultz displayed during an interaction with the West Fargo PD. And the important thing to note here is not the crime that he was being arrested for or being investigated. It's his reaction to PD, to the interaction with the PD.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm going to specifically talk about this incident that occurred in West Fargo in February of last year. On February 8th, there was a loud party, February 9th, there was a loud party complaint that was called in at about 3:52 in the morning. And West Fargo officers responded there, and they attempted to make contact with some folks in the parking lot. And while they were outside, another group came out from the building, at which time they were told by the person who made the complaint that one of the individuals in that group had attempted to break his phone when the complainant said that he was going to call the police. And he also was subsequently videotaping the interaction. The officers attempted to stop that group, and the group took off, and a foot pursuit happened, went for a good distance. Eventually, one of the officers was able to detain an individual who was identified as Corey Schultz, and he remained uncooperative even though he had stopped running. The police officer actually had to draw their taser and give him several orders to surrender or to get on the ground. He eventually was taken into custody once several other officers responded. And even at that point, he continued to not cooperate with the officers, refused to provide the spelling of his name, and made it very difficult. After the officers concluded their investigation, they eventually arrested Mr. Schultz. He was arrested for resisting arrest and for disorderly conduct. When they took him out of the backseat of the squad car to handcuff him. He tried to square off with the officers again and was eventually convinced to comply. While he was being transported to the jail, Mr. Schultz was in the car with the officer who was doing the transport and made several comments to this female officer that I'm reluctant to bring up because of the nature, but they consisted of ethnic and gender-based slurs. And I'm not going to state what those were unless the commission wants to hear those. He also threatened her job at a couple of different times during that interaction and continued to call her gender-based names. When they got to the jail, he engaged in a brief scuffle with the jail staff and eventually was put into a cell. So based on this, like Steve said, based on this incident, we're not really focused on the actual offense, but the nature of the behavior, and we think that calls into question his suitability to have a liquor license. Okay.
Any questions, commissioners? Thank you.
So just to conclude my part of the testimony, Chief Zabalski is also recommending denial with this latest application. You know, between the two chiefs, we have over 60 years of policing experience saying that this group should not have a liquor license, and I'd urge you to listen to their experience. We've heard concerns from this commission and others about the state of the bars and the restaurants in Fargo. And I would say Chief Zabalski has been here less than a year, and he's taking steps to make a change to that culture. And I'm sure that he would support you, or support your support. He would welcome your support in trying to make those changes. So the options that are going to be before you are continuation of the suspension, reinstatement of the license, or revocation of the license. And under 2515.05 of the Fargo Municipal Code, it speaks to the character, fitness, and reputation. And we would submit that Mr. Schultz's character, fitness, and reputation, based on even just one incident with the West Fargo Police, would indicate that maybe he's not one that should be in possession of a liquor license. And then 2515.12 talks about false statements being made. And we would submit that the 2019 documents indicating that Francis Brown would not be a manager or would not be involved in the business are false statements and would also support revocation of the liquor license.
I think, Steve, the other thing the commission has to be aware of, if you revoke the license then come back to the city of Fargo. The owner of the license has to revoke, or does not have the ability to sell it to any other party. It basically comes back to the city.
That is correct. I can read the part of the code that Nancy highlighted if you'd wish, but.
I just want the commissioners to
Yep,
understand.
but that's exactly right.
Adam Richard, you have a proposal or a response?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Commission. This afternoon, we are asking that you do adopt the recommendations of the Liquor Control Board, and we are also asking that consistent with that you lift the suspension today. We have actually made some good strides, engaged into an individual who is willing to consult with Ms. Brown. His name is Tory Young. Mr. Young has about 17 years of bar experience. From 2013 to 2018, he was a corporate trainer for Longhorn Steakhouse. From 2018 to 2021, he was a bar manager at Twist here in Fargo, and currently he is the head bar manager at Rose Wild at the Jasper Hotel. We reached out to him, and he has agreed to engage Ms. Brown in the consultation basis to help her get the experience she needs to run the International African Restaurant, how abide by the city ordinances, to be that friendly, good neighbor, to bring this unique, entertaining atmosphere to Fargo. I'd also like to turn over to Mr. Brudvik, who I believe is on line here, if he has anything else to add.
Hey, good afternoon, and thanks for having us. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so just to expand on what Adam said, we wanted to address the Liquor Control Board. Our understanding of the motion was that there was, and further understanding is the original application, I believe, listed the owners, and I want to point out that the owner, Corey Schultz, is really a silent partner here. He's not actively involved in the management of this. And to move on from that, there was some support in, I think, 4-1 support at the Liquor Control Board of Ms. Baloo Brown having the opportunity to be the general manager of this facility. I think she's got a passion for it, and we believe this is a real asset to the community. It caters to a high percentage of the population. I think at some point I've heard 8% of the population is African American, and this is something that they feel they need in the community. And I think it's a unique and cool atmosphere for them. And so on the recommendation of the Liquor Control Board that they be allowed 30 days to locate someone to assist Ms. Brown in training and implementing the changes that they intend and want to make and have shown that they're interested and willing to make this a safe business in the community. I think the Liquor Control Board wants to see her have that opportunity, and we have identified someone and engaged them in operating as a manager consultant for Baloo to learn the ropes in the bar business and to be able to do this correctly. So we respectfully request that you consider what the Liquor Control Board said and give them this opportunity to go ahead and try and make this business go. And thank you very much.
Brett, I'm a little concerned. Ty is starting another business in Horace, and he's consulting at the Rosewild. And so when you're saying consulting, is he going to be on site 40 to 50 hours a week, or is he going to intermittently be being consulting?
He was just recently engaged, and so thank you for that question. I think I don't think he would be on site for 40 to 50 hours a week. I think the nature of that arrangement still needs to be ironed out, and on that, I mean, obviously, what the business would like here is the ability to get going. They've been out of business since July 1st, and it's September 20th, and so they're it's pretty hard to make things go when you can't operate your business. So they'd like the suspension lifted and the ability to put Mr. Young in place here as a manager consultant. Timing-wise, details exactly how much time he'll be able to do that, we don't have the details for, so we could provide that as soon as possible once we've made those specific arrangements.
But Ty doesn't have a background check as of yet, so we haven't seen that. We don't have his employment background. We have nothing on him, so it'd be difficult for this commission to make that decision tonight. Second issue is I heard it out of Liquor Control. They wanted a business plan, and I think this fails as a business plan because you haven't identified how many hours on site. I think a quote business plan is what really the commission is looking for, and just to say you have a consultant does not answer the question.
Understood. With engaging the consultant, we have also, we're making strides to make sure Ms. Brown is put in the best position possible to be able to run the business and be able to, run the business and abide by the city ordinances, especially, in our business plan that was added to the application submitted on September 10th. You see in the business operations, there is a change of business operations, and Club Africa made those changes based on it was city ordinance, I think 25-15-11. Those the requirements for licensed premises to sell liquor and run. And I believe that those will ensure the safety of patrons. They'll ensure the business will be run appropriately. And I believe and we're still are engaging other individuals. I believe Mr. Young has shown great promise with his background, with his experience. And I believe that he's going to be a great help for Ms. Brown to be able to manage this place properly. And so we will have this nightclub and bar and restaurant active in our town.
So just to make it clear to legal counsel, what I'd recommend you do is come back with a quote business plan, hours of time that Ty Young's going to be on site, hours of time Ms. Brown is going to be helped with her business. So quote a business plan to me is being you will outline for the city what exactly role Mr. Young will be and how many hours he will be on site. Because it's a little different being a consultant, say here's how you do it, but it's actually in the running of the business we have to see how we're going to do that. And Commissioner Pepcorn, as I understood when we listened to liquor control, it was very much concern of who's going to manage this bar and how it's going to run. And Ms. Brown's experience as a CNA is one area, but we really need to have her have bar experience. So to me, that's either you have a manager on site that helps her, and basically she's the apprentice that's learning how, or you have some type of business plan. But words are great, but I'd really like to see a written document of what your intent is before I think we'd be ready to suspend or lift the suspension at this time. But I'll open up for discussion. Commissioners?
Mr.
Commissioner
Chairman?
Preston?
So as I understand, and Nancy, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, in the ordinance for revocation of a license, falsification of an application is one of the conditions or one of the criteria. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Under 25-15-12B5, it says that the commission may, in its discretion, suspend or revoke for cause any license issued under the provisions of this article. The grounds for suspension or revocation shall, among others, include the following. And it's number 5 is the licensee has made any false statement in his application for a license.
So, Mr. Chairman, in my mind, that in and of itself is enough for a revocation. I do understand the importance of having a service like this in our community. My daughter's been to your place a couple of times. If I would have known what had been going on there, I would really have discouraged her from doing that. But she was there and she enjoyed it. The problem is, we're not here necessarily in a liquor licensing process, it seems to me, to make sure that you're successful. We're here to protect public safety. And in my mind, what has been going on here, you've had 2 years where, Ms. Brown, you should have been the manager, obviously weren't. And I truly don't believe that in 30 days or even 60, you're gonna know all the intricacies and the difficulties with a liquor license business. I have run a business myself. It is really a challenge. And I can imagine with liquor involved, it would be even worse. So I don't think this is a training ground for someone, especially with the history that's been happening. The second thing is, and I'll wrap it up with this. Yes, you might have a consultant, but we have seen you go through 2 different attorneys in this short period of suspension, and I think 2 managers. You had a different manager in place, and now Ms. Brown, you come on board, and you've got a consultant in place. I would ask you, how long will a consultant last? And what kind of authority will that consultant have? It seems to me the culture of the business and the training of the employees is what's been lacking. And if the consultant doesn't have free rein to make sure all of that's in place, it's not going to be successful.
Commissioner Strand?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I'll ask you this, Steve, and our police chief isn't here. If this is an example of our new chief who we hired to do certain things, part of his hiring was to rein in the liquor industry to a degree, who's next on the list? Or how short a list is it? How many other bars are on the radar that are going to be brought into question or not?
It's difficult to answer for somebody else, but I will say that the chief is bringing forward more information to the liquor board on a monthly basis. We currently are scheduling other hearings with another bar that has some failures in the municipal code. And so I think that we'll continue to see that progress.
Commissioner Pepcorn?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think our main options are to revoke the license or give them 30 days. I think that's kind of our bottom line. And I think the main thing that concerns me is the roster is the exact same roster as when Commissioner Gehrig and I voted on it the first time. And now we're being told this time it's going to be different. I guess that's what I would sum it up. It's if you look, it's kind of the exact same names from 2 years ago. And the debate, I think, as a commission is, I don't want to speak for Commissioner Gehrig, but I voted against the Chief Todd when he recommended it, just because I thought it was a good addition to our community. And so I guess that's the debate you have to give too. Are we going to support the chief or not? I guess that's the other thing. So, and I'm actually looking forward to the other commissioners, because on liquor control, it's a difficult question, and it's challenging and not easy. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other discussion? Mr. Strand?
Thank you, Mayor. A question about process. We have options today to give 30 days or to reinstate the license or to revoke it. If the revocation occurred, are they able to ever reapply?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Pepcorn?
I believe they can, but Steve, I would like to know more about, because that came up at the liquor control meeting about the license and what happens to it in the meantime, because I think that's a very important question.
I think it would be a city commission decision on what would happen to the license. It's clear in the ordinance that the license would come back to the city. Would the city then want to decrease the number of licenses available? Would the city want to issue that license? If you did decide to issue it, would you want to go through a process where we take business proposals over a 6-month period? We've done that before, so or you could just say, first come, first serve. So there would be a number of options that would be available to the city commission.
Mr. Chair, real quick, I talked about this being an asset, and I also meant an asset of the current owners of that license, because if they lose their license, it's a significant loss. And I don't even know what the financial number would be, but basically they're buying a license and they're going to lose it. So, and maybe that should be none of our business, but to me, it's a significant penalty far beyond what we could ever financially do, I believe. So I think that's a good point as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So just to make it clear, legal counsel, you're here for an open hearing. Hearing what you're hearing from the commission now, I think it's fairly clear, just as a consultant role, that may not work as a business plan because many of the same participants would be in that business plan. Can you suggest us a proposal of what you would like to do in order for them to keep their license, or they could lose it today?
Yes.
Yes. Yep, go ahead, Devin.
Go ahead, Brett, if you have it.
So, this is something that we've talked about, and I guess we were kind of trying to steer towards what the Liquor Control Board had recommended, which was finding someone to train and help Baloo be the manager. Our clients are completely open to hiring a permanent manager for this position, putting somebody in this role that would be there 40, 50, 60 hours a week, making sure that it'd go. And on that, and to accomplish that, I think they're going to need the 30 days at least to try and find that person. And we have made some affirmative efforts to find somebody that could be in that role. We have not located somebody at that point yet, but it's been on our radar, and we, I guess, anticipated it might be a part of the discussion today, and they're completely open to that. So at this point, we would suggest that you continue to follow through with the Liquor Control Board's recommendation, the 4-1 recommendation, that you give them 30 days and let them try and find a permanent manager that we can put in place to address the concerns here. And with that, Commissioner, I want to point out your point is something that we want to address. This is a significant asset for these guys. This is the only asset they really have from this. The building is leased, and I know there are people interested in purchasing this license. So if this is going to go from a suspension to a revocation, I really think the city should consider letting them market this and sell it to somebody that it could be transferred to that you guys approved, rather than just taking it back and taking away probably hundreds of thousands of dollars of an asset. It's maybe worth $200,000-$300,000. It goes back as a revocation. They have nothing. They can't pay back the people that they owe money on this particular license. They can't pay them back. And so it's really a punishment that I don't think meets the crime here. If they're not operating the way you guys want them to, that's understood, but give them some time to market this and sell it. And I believe there may even be people interested in it as we speak. With that being said, their goal is to move this forward. They are passionate about the benefit that it is to the community. And so we would ask that you give them the 30 days to find a permanent manager, and we will get a complete business plan submitted for you guys to consider. At least give them that, and then maybe we can have a discussion where it goes after that. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Pepper.
I'd like to suggest another alternative. I don't believe that any of that current roster should return. And I believe I would support giving them an extension to sell the license. But as far as learning on the job and all that, I think we've had 2 years of that. And so I would be supportive of giving them a 30-day extension to move the license. Because I do think that that's a severe penalty. I guess that's what concerns me. And so I don't know, I'm not going to make that into a form of a motion, but I would be supportive of that, saying you have 30 days, but this is eliminating the current management, getting a clean slate. Thank you.
Commissioner Preston, then Commissioner Gehrig.
So as I recall, this license sat out in the market for, what, 3.5 years before it sold? And granted, by all means, there may be some people interested in it right now, but we also have the history of it being out on the street for a long time and it didn't sell. The second thing is, and Nancy, I'm going to turn to you again. We're talking about a lot of requirements over and beyond just issuing a license. And I think I've asked you this in the past. We're not necessarily a court system where we can put stipulations on how this license gets managed, or can we?
And that question actually has come up a couple of times, and it's a question of the ordinances simply don't provide for that. So if we are applying the ordinances, it's a violation and it's a suspension, revocation, or reissuance, just as if there's a minor in consumption, that is, if it's a first violation, it's provided for in the ordinance. So I don't know if there are stipulations that could be placed on the license. The only way to do that would be by agreement of the parties, which would be outside of what the ordinances would provide for. So I think that would be a very difficult process.
Mr. Gehrig?
I agree with Arlette that I don't think 30 or 60 days is going to do anything. I don't think you're going to find a full-time management team that's going to turn this place around in 30 or 60 days. I agree with John. If we go through with further suspension or revocation of this, we better darn well do it with other places as well. And I've said that publicly numerous times. Dave, I in a way agree with you that it is a lot of money, but a Class A liquor license is a license to sell a product that is controlled as long as you're in good standing with the city of Fargo. It is not a commodity. And, we've had that discussion with liquor control 100 different times. It is not a commodity to be bought and sold by the owners. And I think we should stop doing that, period. We should not be doing that anymore in the city of Fargo. A Class A liquor license in the city of Fargo will sell tomorrow if we allow it. I think that may be a sat on the shelf for other reasons. But there are places in South Fargo and other places of Fargo that are waiting for a license to open up, a Class A license to open up somewhere so that there can be a bar in that neighborhood or in that area. So I think we should revoke. We've danced around this far too long. If this is the process, then the process is severely broken. I mean, we've danced around this issue a long time. We've given numerous opportunities. We've asked them to reapply. That didn't happen. We asked for new management. That didn't happen. We've asked for everything we can ask for. We've had numerous different owners and management teams and lawyers and whatever. It's not going to get fixed. So we need to fix our system. We need to stand stern. I'm someone who wants to have more licenses available. But on one hand, that needs to happen. But on the other hand, we need to be more strict with how we enforce bad behavior from those who have the licenses. Get rid of the bad ones, keep the good ones. This is clearly not one of the good ones. We need to revoke, and I'll make the motion to revoke the license.
Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. I'm sorry, Ms. Brown, you did not have an opportunity to present. The commission is in action right now, but I would allow you to say something because the commission has a vote coming up here. Go ahead.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Okay. Since we left from here on Wednesday, we went all over looking for manager. We even agreed to pay them huge amount of money for them to come and help us. So we've been working towards getting a good manager. I know everybody on the rooster look bad, but I'm not a bad one. I want you to try me. I know it look ugly, but I want you to try me. Let someone train me and see what happen. I think that place gonna run. Things happen, bad things happen, and it already happened. I wasn't taking part in those things. So why don't you give me a chance? Why don't you give me a chance? Give me a chance. Let me prove that I can do it. That's what I want you to do. We owe a lot of money. All every money we got, everything gone. I know this is for the city, and the city want everything to be good, and that's what I want too. So you have to try and give me a chance. Try and give me a chance and see. It should not be because everybody on the rooster or because I'm married to Francis Brown, that means he gonna manipulate me? No. All my life I haven't got one record because I try to stay in a good standing with the law. So I want to take part. I want to be able to do it and show you guys that I can do it. Please don't take our lesson away from us. I suffer too much to put money into that lesson. Please don't do that.
Thank you. Any discussion? Commissioner Strand?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question again about process and options. The motion before us is to revoke, I assume immediately. The other option, one of the other options presented by the Liquor Control Board was a recommendation to continue at 30 days. Could somebody help me understand what happens, what has to happen in that 30 days to satisfy what they were hoping for? What would be different in 30 days as per the Liquor Control's recommendation? Because I really want to understand what they were expecting in that window of time
Commissioner
to make
Pipcorn.
this work.
So, Mr. Chair, I think you already know the Liquor Control Board, it's 4 new members. They have not gone through the experience that we've had the last 2 years. And I think that they wanted to give her a chance for, that's my impression. And I don't want to speak for them, but basically that they wanted to give them an opportunity to get some new management and to give her an opportunity to learn.
Please.
Well, we're not in public hearing right now, please.
So Commissioner Pepcorn, does that imply a rehearing at Liquor Control in 30 days?
No, I think that was just their referral to us. The Liquor Control Board knew that it was coming on to us, and that was just their perspective. And so, and that's why we're here. They can refer to us, but then at the end of the day, it's us that makes the decision. So
they wanted a different management team in than Ms. Brown because she didn't have the experience. Their intent was that they would come with that idea. Legal team did present to us, they're going to bring a consultant in, and that was their solution to the issue that they had. That doesn't appear to be as much as we had expected to come before us. So I think Commissioner Pepcorn's made it clear, it looks like the same people are here, but there's no real change. The real issue, if you listen closely to many of the Liquor Control members, they just didn't think Ms. Brown could run a bar and they would have some other management team. She stated they can't find anybody to do that. So just a minute then. So they're allowed 30 days to come up with a plan or shorter, depending on what they came up with.
Can I address that, Commissioner? This is Brett.
Go ahead.
I just want to get the statements clear here. Now, the Liquor Control Board recommend giving them 30 days to do this, and this has been this was last Wednesday, and we're on Monday here, so it's been not even 4 business days. So the intent, we've been trying hard as a group to find a solution or to find what the Liquor Control Board asked for, but we've only had 4 days to do that. The Liquor Control Board recommended 30. And so just to be clear, they didn't expect us to come to you guys with the solution today. They wanted to give us 30 days to do that.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Pickering.
just a real quick thing, just to recap. So this was very serious 2 months ago, or more than 2 months ago. And so they should have hired, and we had meetings, Nancy was there and Steve, where we encouraged them to hire legal advice. And they didn't do that until, I think, the beginning of this month. And so I think to say that they haven't had time, that's self-created. That wasn't by, I just want to clarify that we didn't create that. They created that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And to redress that, Commissioner, that I'm responding to what the Liquor Control Board, Mr. Pepcorn made that argument at the Liquor Control Board as well, in response to what I just said, and they still made the recommendation after hearing all that to give them 30 days to do it, not to present you guys with this plan. And so we're still within that 30 days, and we're asking that you honor their recommendations. That's what the control board is for.
If I may add on to what Mr. Brudvik is saying as well, you clearly hear the passion that Ms. Brown has for this business. You clearly hear what she's willing to do to gain the experience for this business. And as Mr. Brudvik said, you know, we've been working to find a successful and a manager to come in and help Ms. Brown get that experience. Right now, we've engaged an individual who we thought has great experience. Now this is still pretty fresh. We're still looking at others, and I agree. We need to submit, you know, a plan that says how many hours is he going to be working or she is going to be working with Ms. Brown, and what that's going to look like. What the you know, how much authority are they going to have over the other employees, and we're just asking that we're able to provide you that written document. You know, right now it's still pretty fresh. We're still seeing who is the best candidate. We have one candidate who we think is the best, but I believe we can provide you a candidate who will make sure that Ms. Brown does get that experience. I believe that she can get that experience within the 30 days, especially 60 days.
Mr. Preston.
In consulting, Commissioner, with our clients on this, with the owners, they're 100% on board with putting a permanent manager in place. They're willing to remove Baloo in the application as the manager and putting a permanent manager in place if that's what the commission wants to see. I'd like to respond to Mr. Gehrig's comment about this not being a commodity. This is a commodity. This is a very valuable asset, and to revoke this thing and not give them the opportunity to at least get their bills paid. There's other local business owners. This came from Firebox, which is owned by John Wanzik, and they still owe him money on this. They're not going to be able to pay that back if this gets revoked. So if they're not going to give them the 30 days like the Liquor Control Board asked, please give them the 30 days to sell it. There's an interested buyer on the table right now that would take care of that. So thank you.
Commissioner Preston.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I guess I would ask the representatives here for the business. I would hope that you understand our skepticism here in that the first attorney was probably, I don't know, a couple weeks, and we have no assurances that you're going to be around in a couple weeks. The first managers were gone. So there's been so much moving parts with this, and the ability to learn how to manage a business like this in 30 days, in my mind, is absolutely, I mean, it's just not going to happen. And if we do this for 30 days, we reissue or reactivate the license, we have no oversight at that point. We're done. And there's a big chance of the same thing happening all over again.
Commissioner
Definitely understand the skepticism, Ms. Preston, and appreciate it. The reality is what we're asking for is the ability to put a permanent manager in place. The commissioner indicated that's what the commission would like to see, and our owners are completely supportive of this. And we just are asking for that time to do it. Like the Liquor Control Board said, 30 days. Give us the 30 days to either get a permanent manager in place and come to you with a complete business plan, or to get this asset sold to someone so that the debts can be resolved.
And if you want us to look for 90 days for someone to trim it, that's okay too.
Ms. Brown, we're having discussion by the commission right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Gehrig.
she was on the application as of June 25th, 2019. So we keep saying, give her a shot, give her a shot. Everything that's happened up until this point, she's been a part of. She's an owner in this business. Just because she wasn't there managing it, that's not our problem. If you're an owner and you want to be active in your business, be active in your business. But don't come back 2 years later and say, give me a shot, I can make this better. You're part owner. Everything that's happened to this point also goes back to you. So this is not a give her a shot moment. She's had her shot. And to your point about the commodity, that's how we treat it, but it's not. It's not a commodity. And going forward, we need to, again, look at this and stop selling licenses, because this type of scenario then happens, where it's really hard to pull a license because we're actually pulling away money from folks, when that shouldn't be the case. Licenses are not to be bought and sold on the open market. It's a license.
Commissioner Strand.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just curious, process again. If the commission were to decide to vote to revoke, does that eliminate the ability to sell that asset?
Yes.
Is there any way to have it both ways? If the commission's intention is to not have them continue operating as a liquor license, is there a desire or an appetite to let them at least try recoup what they can out of their asset?
Commissioner Preston.
Is that a Nancy question? Nancy?
I'm looking, and it's, it's not specifically provided for, but I suppose there would be an option to extend the suspension, which in that time, they could transfer that license. So I think that is an option that may be available. I think that would be the direction, unless they were going to be allowed for a reapplication yet again, but I'm not sure that that's, again, that would just,
So if
that
the-
would be a continuance of this hearing, would essentially
If
be a
Commissioner Strand
reapplication.
had an amendment that said extended for 30 days if they, and allow the sale of the license without saying that it's going to come back as a business, but you're just giving them the opportunity to sell the license, John? Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I think at a minimum, that's a reasonable thing to do. It shows a little bit of heart.
Do you want to try an amendment?
Let me continue before I do that.
Okay.
Another option would be just let's put this on hold for 30 days and get a report back in 30 days, check up on the business plan, see if they're adhering to it, see if there's the management's in place, see if they've got their people working full-time, and see if at that point we are open to a continuation or not. I mean, that's another option we could have. They're already operating as a restaurant, so this doesn't have to drop today, or does it?
It's a hearing. Whatever we decide
Hearing.
today, we decide.
Mayor?
Commissioner Strand.
I will join in with Commissioner Preston. There are some serious concerns that have been brought to everybody's attention about activities at that establishment that very much concern some of us and others. But I'll say this, there's lots of concerns about lots of bars in town, other bars, not lots. So, that's my desire, is that if this is the path we're on, we be consistent and treat everybody equally going forward. And in the meantime, I would just, if it isn't resolvable, I personally would not want to punish you with the financial burden of having lost your investment in the asset that you could transfer and sell. So that said, Mayor, I will make a motion that we,
Amendment. A motion's on the table. You make an amendment?
I might need help making this amendment. My desire is to amend it to give them a window of 30 days to report back to us whether they've got a business plan that we may approve, or whether they've got an intention to sell the asset and a buyer in line.
Eric, you grabbed the mic. Did he do something wrong?
No, I just thought I'd put some words in your mouth. You basically, the motion that Commissioner Garrick made was to revoke the license, presumably effective immediately. I think what you're saying is make the revocation effective a future date, that being maybe 30 days from now, and that they be in suspended status until then. And that would presumably, Nancy, does that sound like that would then allow a sale to occur within that 30 days?
That's what I was thinking too. I think if the motion for revocation passes, any part of that, that would be immediate and it would be returned to the city. So it would be a future revocation date, which would allow that to happen if that's the wish of the commission.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, and then I have a question.
Commissioner Preston, Commissioner Gary. Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't have.
Yeah, I just want to make sure John understands that that means that they don't sell the thing in 30 days, it's revoked, right? 'Cause that's the way I just heard the motion. And he's nodding his head. I want you to make sure that's what you meant to say.
I guess in my opinion, my thinking is if they have a buyer, we'd let them create a sale. I don't know that we have to etch it in stone, so we punish them even so that it's impossible to sell.
No,
if they
but just
have-
that Greg's reputation is revoke the license, it'll just be delayed 30 days. If they don't sell or do the management, it's done. It comes back to the city.
Because the motion you made is if they don't sell in 30 days, it's revoked.
I don't think that's what he said.
That's what he said. And I want to make sure he knows that. And so he can make the motion he wants to make, 'cause I don't think that's what you wanted to make.
My desire would be to them to show they have a buyer, a bona fide legitimate buyer. They may not have had it sold, signed on the dotted line, but if that's their only option is they can sell their asset, I would like to have them have the ability to sell their asset in light of a revocation.
Commissioner Preston.
A seconder of that amendment motion. It would be really helpful, Commissioner Strand, if you are real clear about what you're making a motion on. What I heard Eric say was different than what you had originally said. My second was on Eric's comment.
Could we read back the amended motion? You don't have it, Shelley? Because you said new management or buyer on your initial amendment vote.
I did.
Eric interpreted it only as buyer. He did not say new management.
Wasn't thinking.
So why don't you read the motion back?
I don't think there is one.
Amend the motion to give 30 days to report back for a business plan to approve or sell.
So that's a plan to improve or sell. That-
Approve.
In my head, that plan would tell us, we have a buyer, or we have new management, but, and you have your 30 days, and here's where we are, and yet if they, in that time, decide to sell, what you'd present to us is that you have a buyer, and that it's a legitimate buyer, and that you are going to, we would allow you to carry forth, breathe life into the sale, while even though you're revoked.
Commissioner Preston.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if I can withdraw a second, but I will speak in opposition to this. The only way I would support this is if they sell, and if they don't sell, a revocation happens. I don't see any need for extending this for a better management plan.
Mr. Chair, can she make that motion? Or are we too far away from the original motion, too far removed?
John would have to,
You don't have to modify his amendment. Do you want to vote on the amendment first, and then if it goes down, then redo the amendment?
you could retract it too, whatever.
John, your choice.
I think we should have a vote.
Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Strand,
Yes.
Preston,
No.
Gary,
No.
Pepcorn,
No.
Mahoney,
Yes. Okay, take another amendment. Amendment as you say it, Arlette? Mr. Preston, you had one that allows the ability to sell the license.
I'm feeling a little pulled in both directions here. I'm not real certain I'm ready to make that motion yet.
Okay,
I'll make the motion. And basically what it would be, would they have 30 days to sell the license, and if they don't, then it's revoked.
is there a second?
Okay, I'll second. And then I have a question.
Any discussion?
So, Nancy, we can dictate that they sell it?
That's a question for you, Nancy.
I don't know that you can dictate that they sell it, but you can determine that you would revoke it and giving them
Okay.
that time to do that.
Okay.
The revocation would be within your authority.
Commissioner Garrett.
Excuse me. Can I do one follow-up?
Commissioner Preston.
So the revocation would happen without another public hearing or without another commission meeting?
I believe yes, because in fact, the motion is to revoke at this time, but that's a delayed revocation.
Okay.
So if that passes, the revocation is in effect in 30 days.
Commissioner Garrick.
I'm just going to make the simple point, this is a dangerous precedence we're setting. We're treating this now like a true commodity, and there's no going back. We're talking about money, we're not talking about the license, we're not talking about money, we're not talking about public safety, we're talking about money, not the owners. You know, this is not good. This is a really bad place to be. And if they wanted to sell this license, they could have months ago.
Any
Can I
other
ask a
discussion?
question on the
It's not
motion?
Mr. Chairman, real quick, we're not setting the price. We're not telling them to sell it if they don't want to. We're saying they have 30 days, and at the end of 30 days, if they don't sell it, then the license is revoked. That's what we're doing. We're not getting into the setting the price or anything like that. Thank you, Mr.
You had a
Chair.
question, Brent?
I just want some clarification on that. If I can just ask, and I'll just point out what my questions are. If they're going to have 30 days to sell it, of course, anybody, in a transaction like this, and, can we specify that they have 30 days to get this thing under contract? And because, of course, if they sell it, the license has to be transferred to someone that you guys approve, right? So if they get a contract for the sale, will they have time to go ahead and make this transfer happen, and for you, the Liquor Control Board, and you guys to consider the transfer to whoever's purchasing? Because that's going to be something that's important. Is it at 30 days, it doesn't just get revoked if the transfer hasn't happened, because we have public hearings that have to happen so the transfer can happen to someone you guys approve.
Yancy?
Yes, I would concur in that the transfer is actually the deciding factor here. So what I'm hearing is revoking with these owners and managers, but if there was a transfer to acceptable owners and managers, the city isn't necessarily part of that financial transaction on that regard.
Right.
Any other discussion?
So, Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Preston?
it goes back to Commissioner Garrick's comment about, the financial exchange that happens in selling is not necessarily what we're interested in or can be involved in. So if the seller or if the buyer was someone that never passed our background checks, then what happens? So we go down this road that's a little bit hazy. And going back to the fact that we are here really to oversee public safety. And so I guess I will probably vote against this one.
Can I address that, Commissioner? Just briefly.
Sure.
It maybe shouldn't be a commodity. I understand what Commissioner Garrick's saying, but it is. It has been. These things have been sold in the market and transferred, and maybe that's something that should be addressed with city policy in the future. But for right now, that is what it is. And it's still going to be a really extreme punishment for people that have been trying